Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Wednesday.
The craziest thing that Trump has said yet came out of his mouth last night. No, not his reiteration of the Canada as a 51st state thing, which was brought up again when asked, how could we avoid these imposed tariffs indefinitely? Showing his hand a little bit. I think it's clear he wants the oil, the water that we've got, but I digress. The new thing was, of course, the casual, just so casual statement that the U.S. should own and should develop the highly contended Gaza Strip, and that residents currently there should just find a different and beautiful place to live. I mean, tone deaf. I'm not sure that he's even aware of what's going on, other than that, there's some conflict, maybe we could just move in and just stop it by being there instead. This was not on the bingo card. The final Black Sabbath show ever has been announced with Definity, and it's going to have support from huge bands. This is going to be a big deal. It's going to take place in Birmingham before too long, July 5th, with Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, and more there. You got Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler coming together, and drummer Bill Ward. First time they have done this in 2 decades in their hometown and everything. It's being called Back to the Beginning, just announced today. This is going to be absolutely huge, and I certainly hope there's going to be some opportunity for people who can't be there in the crowd to be able to at least watch in some way. Make a concert film out of it. This is an important moment. The MTV Unplugged session featuring Eric Clapton is now getting an expanded release 30 years later. In fact, that's what they're calling it. Eric Clapton Unplugged over 30 years later. This was part of the MTV Unplugged series, which saw really, really iconic performances into the 90s. And this was one of the big ones. It sold 26 million copies in album form. And, it would be the basically best-selling live album of all time. This time around, there's going to be a new video to go along with the audio re-release. And it's going to be on, not MTV, but Paramount Plus. As well, the French streaming audio service, Deezer, has noted that about 10% of all music uploads daily are generated by AI, that equating to about 10,000 different AI-generated tracks every single day. And they're working hard to use detection tools to not only label them as AI-generated, but also to remove them from the algorithmic recommendations, as they say. And more disruptions, not only to the music industry and ecosystem from AI-generated stuff continuing, but beyond that in just about every industry. Very early it showed up, Jurassic World Rebirth. And it's trying to be something new. Well, I feel kind of just retreading some of the same old ground that we've seen many, many times.
These dinosaurs were too dangerous for the original park.
Please don't say they're raptors. They're raptors.
The worst of the worst were left here.
Oh no, the worst of the worst. Every single time we're going to get more worst of the worst. But, I guess that's how it works. And this time they're adding in Scarlett Johansson, who in real life has been a fan of the franchise since way back in 93, like we all were. And she's been acting for almost as long, maybe longer. And so it feels like a long time coming in that side of things, but it'll be fun if nothing else. However, honestly, if this is the start of a new third trilogy, as I'm pretty sure they're trying to do, and it follows the trajectory of quality of both of the previous trilogies, this will be the best one.
Thursday.
There's a study that's out. New study finds that people are speaking 3,000 less words per day on average compared to what we were speaking 20 years ago. And my immediate thought is, oh, well, that's interesting. We're speaking less. I don't think we're talking less. We're just putting a lot more into text messages and into messenger messages and into the internet. But 3,000 less spoken words per day. It also makes sense because in 2005, we were just starting to share viral videos. And when there was an exciting show to talk about, nearly everybody had actually watched it, and you actually could talk about it. That's where those 3,000 words have gone. Now it's, have you seen blank? And the answer is, what's that on? Film Flicks? Primo Video? Dindy Plus? Boo Boo? No, I only have Goku. It's free. This is the dream The dream for a world we could live in from some lawmaker down in the U.S., an extremely important law that he wants to see made a reality. He needs the movie theaters to tell you the time of the movie and the time of the trailers and the advertisements. High priority. I can't think of anything that might be more important than this. It has to go all the way up to the top, to the Supreme Court of whatever, to get turned into law. We all have to be adhering to this. You know what I think would be a more important thing than that? Just having people not be on their phones during the movie. How is this still a thing? It wasn't that with time and with getting used to having cell phones in our pockets all the time that it would just become more commonplace. We're supposed to learn over time that wasn't the best thing to do. At least, I mean, if you're trying to hide it, I'm a fan of that. Sit further back in the theater, put the screen on dim, try to put it in like the jacket or something like that. And if it's like an emergency, you take the call, sure, but not in the theater. You just walk outside. How hard is that?
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Couple of stories. Of course, we're getting further clarification about what's going to be happening for the very last Black Sabbath show that was announced just yesterday on February 5th, exactly 5 months before the date of the show on July 5th. And this is going to be a return with Tony Iommi, with Geezer Butler, with drummer Bill Ward, all coming together. Original lineup for the first time in 20 years. And, there's been a little bit of contention, a little bit of confusion about whether this would even be a possibility. Some people seem to not be so interested. Maybe they're now more so. And largely it's been Sharon Osbourne and Tony Iommi who have been getting the word out about what is coming and how important this is, and even joking that this is usually the kind of thing that happens after somebody's dead. There's going to be a whole ton of support. Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, Slash, and Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, Alice in Chains, members of Limp Bizkit and Korn, and Rage Against the Machine. Is going to be absolutely huge. And in other news, Elton John might just have a new album coming out. He famously retired from touring and performing live in long stretches, but doesn't mean he's not going to be putting out new music. He's been working with Brandi Carlile as well as his longtime collaborator and friend Bernie Taupin. And it looks like there might be something soon, though no official date released just yet. 8 nostalgic colors are coming on back. From Crayola, new crayons. Well, I mean, not new. New old crayons. Featuring Dandelion. I remember that. That is like a visual, visceral flash to the past for me. Orange red, violet blue are also going to be coming back amongst the other colors, which is just interesting. Of course, limited time only. They're going to do some planned scarcity to make us want it more. The fear of missing out is the goal here. Apparently, Dandelion hasn't been in there since 2017. Some of them dating back to 1990. But just for a limited time only, to inspire more creative moments for our fans, but not forever. As for all of them, well, the list is online. We don't need to list them here.
Friday.
Now, I've got a way to make your day glorious. It is a new fast food hack. You see a lot of this on the internet. People will, it's sometimes combining different brands. Crazy. Or at least just, different items from the menu at one spot that you can customize into your own thing. It's not really ordering off menu. It's ordering the things that are on the menu and making them into something different. And I didn't invent this. I just coined the name for it. A friend of mine told me about making McFlurry hotcake tacos at McDonald's. I call them McFlacos. And the way you do it, admittedly, you're going to have to wait until after 11 a.m. because you're not going to be able to get the McFlurry part of it until after the breakfast time. And not every location will keep the hotcakes on the menu for the all-day breakfast, so you got to pick and choose. But what you do is grab your favorite McFlurry flavor, snack size, spoon some of that onto the hotcake, top with a little bit of that ultra-sweet syrup, and then just, as my friend who invented this told me, just give up on life because it's so delicious. 1 week away from the most romantic day of the year on Valentine's Day, so they say. I love this kind of an offshoot of the Valentine's Day season as you start to see things like, what I've noticed anyway, is zoos and animal services getting in on the Valentine spirit with fundraisers and events like name an elephant turd after your ex. Yes, zoo is definitely doing that. Or the other clever one that I saw this year was name a stray cat after your ex, and then they'll get spayed or neutered. For the people who believe their ex shouldn't procreate. lest the world have more of them in the dating pool later on.
Hey Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
Well, we've gotten more news with this last Black Sabbath show ever with the original lineup, that is. Ozzy Osbourne is going to be involved. Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi. A lot of word coming from Sharon Osbourne, manager. And also some word from Ozzy himself saying, unfortunately, he can't walk ahead of this performance that's going to be happening in about 5 months' time. July 5th is the date. But it's because of the Parkinson's diagnosis that he's received and the complications therein. But they do say it hasn't affected his voice, and he's very, very much wanting to make this thing happen. We also saw the full list of releases for Record Store Day Canada hit the website for Record Store Day and giving us the listings of everything available. Big Rec are the Canadian ambassadors, and they've, of course, got a re-release. But Oasis and Blur from the UK are both going to be dropping some re-released albums during the Record Store Day in April, as well as ahead of it. Oasis have the 25th anniversary of Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. It's going to be out Friday, February 28th. And Blur have got their 10th anniversary re-release of The Magic Whip, which for Record Store Day is going to be a special picture disc. This is just a hilarious story coming out of Europe in the Czech region. There was plans for I guess really the best way to describe it is like a dam and reservoir project in some lands that weren't wetlands, but then suddenly started to become wetlands because of the intervention of beavers. Czech beavers nailed a dam and reservoir project that was stuck in development limbo practically overnight, with, of course, no oversight and no cost whatsoever. Somehow they picked the exact location. And in fact, some of the engineers on the project are saying they picked a slightly better location once they actually started to investigate because, of course, now the job is switched from, well, I guess we don't really need the dam and reservoir because a natural one is occurring thanks to the beavers, but we have to check the integrity, the structural integrity, and see how long it's going to last. They say it's very well built and should be saving the local government an estimated $1.2 million, or at least the equivalent in Czech crowns. Hilarious to me. The beavers just did it for them. And why exactly do the Canadian beavers not have jobs like this? I'm asking.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.